Welcome to another episode of So What's Next? I am your host, Kristen Smith.
And I'm your co-host, Danielle Downs. And we're with
Maria Milagros-Vazquez, speaker, author, coach.
I think we should start on why you started this. Why you decided this was important for you.
Oh, yum.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I think that's a great start because this is humongous. This is
Okay.
amazing.
Thank you.
And there's a wonderful story behind it.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a book/journal, right? It's called The Love Journey. And it is something that I've been doing for a couple of years now. And when I do this, usually it's in February, I invite women from the community, social media, wherever, to join me on this journey. And it's usually free. Not usually, it's always free. I don't know why I said that.
It depends.
Like your time and your energy is not
Yeah.
free, but there's no cost. Mm-hmm. And every day they would get an email, and the email would have a word, a little blurb, and then an exercise and maybe some affirmations or something. So it was just a way for us to come back to love. Mm-hmm. And the beginning part of the month, the first 2 weeks was all about self-love, and the second part of the month was all about sharing love. And the reason why I started this is because on my own journey, I realized that all things begin and end with me. Mm-hmm. All of my interactions, all of my reactions, all of my filters, all of my stuff is mine. Mm-hmm. And if I'm not connected to a place of love, I'm filtering accordingly. Mm-hmm. So it became really important to me to come back to love. And growing up in a childhood that was just very dysfunctional, very toxic, there was a lot of abuse. And I was very separate from the idea that I even deserved to be loved. Mm-hmm. Never mind to say nice things or love myself. So through like therapy and all of these things, I started this journey, the love journey, coming back to myself. And I did this practice. I still do this practice where every month I do like 2 or 3 things for the 30 days. And it just depends on what I'm working with or what I need at the time. And I started this practice a couple of years ago where I said, okay, during this month, I forget what month it was, for these 30 days, I'm just going to focus on loving myself. Mm-hmm. So I sat down and I wrote a bunch of words that came to mind. And I do this thing where I like go into meditation, and when I come out, I feel very open. Mm-hmm. And then I just wrote down all these words and said, okay, I'm going to do this practice. So I did that for 30 days and let that word become an anchor. And then the next month, I thought, I want to do this again. So I did it again. And this time I attached exercises and ways to kind of play and practice with those words so that it wasn't just this anchor. It was like a real intentional practice. So this journal/book is actually the first 30 words that I've ever used for my own self-love practice. It's the first 30 exercises that I've ever done and that I still do. Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So can you give us an example of some of the words in there and like how you have used them?
Yeah. So the first word that comes to mind is gentle. And I don't know why recently I keep going back to that word.
Yep.
Like just be gentle with
That
yourself.
is, yeah, I actually do really love that word.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I do remind myself of that. Like, be gentle.
Be gentle.
Because
Give yourself
we're not
grace.
gentle
Yeah.
to ourselves.
Right.
Like,
Never.
We're gentle to everybody else.
Yes.
We
Yeah.
give everybody else grace but we're not gentle when it comes to like our own thoughts, our own
Yeah.
self.
Right.
I do.
Or
I love that word.
Giving ourselves like just the room to make mistakes and to figure it out. Mm-hmm. And we're not very gentle. We can be very mean to ourselves. And what is wrong with you? That's the inner dialogue. What's wrong with me? Why didn't I just learn it the first time? What's taking me so long? There's a lot
Right,
of that.
right.
Be gentle. So the first word I come back to is gentle. And I share this story in the journal. When I was in therapy, it was the first time that someone ever said, you need to be gentle with yourself. Mm-hmm. And it felt so weird
Yeah.
to
Like
hear.
unknown.
Yeah.
Like, what does that even mean?
Like what? No,
Yeah.
you're
Like, how do I
gentle
do
when you
that?
pet a cat.
Yeah.
What do you
yeah.
say?
Like, what are you saying?
Yeah.
I would feel the same way. Like
Like, what is that? What do you mean?
Yeah.
Like, how? Tell me exactly how to
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
it. Like,
Yeah.
what do I do?
Yes. And then that's when my therapist was like, you need to bring in a picture of like a younger version of yourself. And I chose myself when I was 9, because that was really the pinnacle of when things were really bad. Mm-hmm. Like there was sexual abuse, there was physical abuse. It was really chaotic. And I remember at 9 trying to figure out ways to like end my life. because it just felt so devastating, all of the weight of everything,
imagine
that
at that young
it was
age.
just like, I could get really, really sick and then not take medicine. I could, like stand outside in the freezing cold and let myself freeze to death. Like it was
Oh
like,
my goodness.
Yeah, it was very, so I remember at 9, and this was right before the accident, that it was the pinnacle of the worst, and I think part of it too was at 9, I knew that something was very wrong, but I felt like I couldn't talk to anybody. I couldn't share it. I couldn't.
Right. Yeah. You
Right?
felt alone.
Yeah, so alone and
Completely.
just very unsafe in my body, around me, the adults around me. Nobody felt safe. So I found a picture of myself when I was 9. I come back to my therapist's office, and she had 2 chairs set up facing each other, and one of them had a stack of pillows and like a book, and then a picture prop thing. And she says, put the picture in that and sit in the opposite seat. And I was like, this is ridiculous. And she's
Now,
like,
how old were you when you went through this therapy?
this is my mid-20s.
Okay.
Yeah, because I had graduated from college, and it was before I had my daughter.
Okay.
So somewhere in my mid-20s. And I remember sitting across, and I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to do? And she's like, you're going to talk to your 9-year-old self, and you're going to be very gentle with her, and you're going to tell her that she's safe now, and you're going to tell her that she's okay, and you're going to tell. And I was like, what? This is so dumb. This is the dumbest thing. And then I sit in the chair, and she's like, fine, it's dumb, but you're here, and you're paying for it.
Yeah, so do it.
Might as well
Do it.
try.
Yeah, just do
and
it.
you asked, like, what do I need to do to be gentle with myself? And she said, this is what we're doing. So
Yeah.
I sat down, I started talking to my 9-year-old self, and then I just started bawling.
Yeah.
I bet.
And I didn't realize how much I needed to talk to those older, versions of myself with this gentle, compassionate love and soften those spaces. And it was so healing. And it took multiple practices. Like we did that exercise in therapy a couple of times. I still have that picture. I still have it framed. And every now and then when I can feel her feeling really unsafe and protective and guarded, that is not love, right? So I'll find that picture and like, hey, baby girl, we're good. Just want you to know you don't get to be in the driver's seat. You're only 9, okay? I love you.
Right.
And it's a nice practice to come back to the moment, to come back to the growth and the process, and to spread love through all the past versions of myself. And this might sound weird to some people, and I think people who get it will get it. But when I loved that version of me, I could feel that love pass through the ages and catch up with me in the moment. So it was almost like
That's
a
amazing.
time machine
Yep.
in its own weird way, where the healing happened just residue of healing, but
yeah.
it was enough that I could feel it like and like it caught up with me in the moment. I was like, this
Yeah.
is profound.
Just like, renewed. Like
Yes.
completely like a fresh start. Like
Yes.
I can just be me.
And then, these stories that we tell ourselves, right? One of my things that I say all the time is the most powerful things we have are the stories we tell ourselves about who we are, what that means, and what we are capable and deserving of. And a lot of those stories are built in our childhood. And then our identity is aligned with those stories. And because we don't want to defy our identities, we will hold on to those stories, even if they're dangerous, even if they're toxic. And we would just kind of repeat those patterns. And that healing, that going back to love, doing the work to return to love, creates such soft, gentle spaces that then not only am I healing, but then my identity can be altered, right? I can change the essence of who I am because I'm healed in those spaces. Like love is just so, and I know a lot of times people are like, oh my God, you talk so much about love. It's so, because it's so woo-woo. And the way we talk about it, like romantically in rom-coms,
Oh, yeah.
it's cute, but that's not what I'm talking about.
That is not at all.
That's not it. And I found for myself, it is the most powerful vehicle by which we can heal, change our lives, create the lives that we want and love and deserve, have healthier relationships, take care of ourselves. It's through the vehicle of love. So after this past year, when I did this journey, about 50 women joined me. And then a couple of them said, you should put this in a journal. I want to be able to have this to hold it and take it with me.
Yep.
And I was like, say less. Right? And then just put it together and created the love journey. And this is part 1 because I'm working on part 2, and part 2 is sharing the love.
Okay.
But because it starts with us, we cannot give what we do not have.
Right.
So we have to return to those places of being gentle here first, because if I'm not gentle with myself, I cannot be as gentle with you as I want to be, with my daughter, with the people that I love and the work that I care about, right? If I'm not showing myself compassion, I can't. I mean, I can, but it's so small compared to what
Almost muted.
Yes.
Yes.
Compared to what we could give if we knew it for ourselves first. Because once we know it, I'm like, everybody needs to know this.
Yeah, like you want to give it away.
Yes.
Like, please here, take it.
Shout it to the rooftops. Yeah.
I have all this extra. Take it,
Yep.
you know, like that. So all things begin and end with us. And we cannot give what we do not have. So we start with ourselves. And it's interesting because I recently did a talk on burnout. And afterward, this woman came over and she says, I've been following you, you know, on social media, blah, blah, blah. She's like, they think you're talking about recovering from burnout, but you're talking about love. And I was like, shh.
Don't tell.
Don't tell them, because if I say I'm talking about love, they can't hear it. But if I say, no, I'm going to teach you how to recover from burnout, people can hear that.
Yep.
You know?
Because it's more clinical. It's more of a workshop at that point. And you're like, oh, okay, that I know that I'm burnt out. I know how to associate with that. But love is just like a broad spectrum of conversation where it's hard to narrow in on that. But when you say, we're going to talk about this, it's still love.
It's still love.
It's still love.
I'm bringing you back to love. Yeah.
So at what point did you decide to do this? Like, how long has this been in the works?
The practice for myself, it's been, oh my gosh, like 10 years.
Wow.
But I started doing this probably 5-6 years ago. It was pre-pandemic. I have to just heads up, I have no concept of time.
That's totally fine.
Like, I really try to remember, like, how long ago was that? Now we have a marker called the pandemic.
Yes.
So I know it was pre-pandemic.
Right. Pre-COVID or post-COVID.
Right.
More like in the thick of it. I'm like, oh, it was. Picture it, March 2020.
You're like, and then you shut down completely. You're like, no, don't go there. Talk about self-love. Please don't go there.
It was actually like before the pandemic that I started inviting people to do the practice with me. And then it was just recently, like maybe in the past year or two, that I thought maybe this should be something tangible. And then when the women asked for it, I said, okay, that just gave me the confirmation kind of that I needed. Yeah.
I know I've tried to start things similar and I don't ever follow through. Like, how did you stay on task, even in your own mind, to do it every single day? Like, how did you learn that was like so important to you? Or did you not have to teach yourself?
No, I absolutely did.
Okay.
It's a process, right? And it's one of those things that I was not being gentle with myself. And if I missed a couple of days, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to get it together, right? And then as you go again through the process and you're like, that's not very kind, Maria. Be kind to yourself. Life happens. How can I best support myself? What can I use to help support myself? So I got a really cute calendar and it was all about love. And I put it on the wall right in the kitchen in front of me. And every time I did it, I would put a heart.
Okay.
And so then it just became a marker. Now I use my technology. So I would use my phone to constantly remind me, like, this is what we're doing. I've been doing these practices for so long now, though, that it's second nature. So on August 31st, I will think of what I'm going to do for September 1st. And then once I embed it, it's embedded. And then every day I follow through and I do it. But it definitely is. It's a back and forth. It's a practice. You do it, and then you forget to do it, and then you go, oh, I forgot to do it. Be gentle, and then you get back into it. Maybe you do it for 2 days, you forget for 3. Maybe you do it for 3 days, you forget for 4, and you build up that muscle and that practice. And then I always recommend to people, just find tools that you have your phone all the time.
Right.
Use it, right? Let your phone be a way that you can remind yourself, and if you have like a friend or a buddy who wants to do it with you, because then you'll hold each other accountable, right? So those are some of the best ways. But honestly, I'm at the point now where once I decide to do something, that's it. Lock it down. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that idea of 30 days at a time, because it's not a year, it's not 6 months. You know, it's like anybody can do anything, you know, consistently for, I would say, 30 days. You know? And it's not, so you give like one word a day? Or, okay. Okay.
And they can start at any time. It doesn't have to be at the beginning of the month. There's a space there that they can write in the date. And there's a word a day, and then a little blurb, and then some affirmations, some quotes, all the yummy stuff that I really like. I made sure that included in there. There's a space for gratitude because there are over 2,000 studies that show that a gratitude practice can change your hormonal balance. And it can change the structure of your brain, right? And then you start to increase optimism and perceive the world differently. That's love.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, when I say I need the better car or the better this or the degree and then I'll be worthy and then I'll be happy, that's disconnect from love. If I'm saying, yes, I'm going to get those and I'm grateful for food in my fridge and a roof over my head and not just the grand things in life, but the minutia. I'm grateful for lip balm. Like, whoever Burt's Bee is, thank you. Right?
I love you.
Yes. I'm grateful.
We were just talking about that. Like, I'm totally, in the last podcast, we were talking about how we're addicted to chapstick.
Yes.
And like it's great.
Yeah.
It's a great
I
invention.
put on chapstick before we came in here. Like,
I have one in my pocket. I literally have one here.
Like I always have like a car chapstick, a work chapstick, a purse chapstick, a home chapstick, you know?
Yeah. And like we don't take the moment intentionally to go, oh, I'm grateful for all that. Yep. And not only am I grateful that I have it, but I have the funds to purchase it and to bring it into my life. And if I have the funds, that means I have a skill that I can trade and barter for money. And if I have skills, then I've been educated. And if I've been educated, that you know what I mean? And it becomes like this beautiful spiral, like, oh my gosh, life is amazing. I'm kind of amazing. Let's move from that. That's love.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it all stemmed from chapstick. Like exactly. But you're right. And it's just one little thing can just snowball into all these other things. And it's amazing.
Yeah. So like these studies have shown that people who practice gratitude have such high levels of serotonin and endorphins and low levels of cortisol that a consistent gratitude practice has been proven to eliminate, if not massively reduce, anxiety and depression. What?
You're like, please.
Just by listing things that I'm grateful for? Like, give me more of that. So that's also included in every day because it's such an important practice that I do. I want to make sure that I'm sharing what's real and what works for me. So, because I know, again, studies have proven this stuff works.
Yep.
I was using it when it was all woo-woo and weird, and I wasn't talking about it because people are like, you're so weird. Why are you always talking about your gratitude? But now it's like there's 2,000 studies that prove.
You're like, I know. I'm a very like sensory-based person. Like I think of myself, this is going to sound weird, and it might be nobody understands what I'm saying, but I think of myself as a sim.
Like
from the game.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because like if I walk into a space and it has like, if it looks dirty or if it's not, I don't want to say organized. I don't care about like mess and chaos, but if something like smells weird or looks off, like my whole like demeanor goes down. Like I could feel my shoulders like slink down. Or if it doesn't smell right, like I'm a big, like I love scents, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I've been like, if I'm at home and I notice like the dishes are not done or like the bathroom needs to be cleaned, like I'm usually the person that does all that, and I can get really upset in that moment. And I've been like, you know what? No, go to your bedroom, turn on your little twinkle lights, light some incense, and then immediately like I start to like lift back up again, and I can feel it like in my body.
Yeah.
I can feel it lifting me, and I feel like I've only realized this recently within like the last few months. Like, oh wait, these things upset you, but they're not anybody's fault. It's just, you know, there's kids, there's dogs, like this is life. It happens. But now I know, okay, separate yourself for a few minutes, go into your happy place, and then all of a sudden, like all your serotonin is going to come back, and you're going to feel good, and you lift up again, like a sim, like my little green.
Oh, that's what you mean.
Again, I thought it was. I was a big Sims person. Okay, like it goes from like red when you're really really mad or upset, and then it's yellow, but then it goes all the way back to green again, and that's me. I'm like, wee.
I get that.
I knew it. I knew.
I was
it
like, make it make sense.
Please give us more context clues, please.
I knew it was just going to be a me thing, but that's okay.
No, but that makes sense. And the fact that you know yourself and then you're giving yourself what you need is really great.
Separate yourself.
Yeah. And I mean, the coach in me, I have two things I want to say to you real quick. One, are the people in your home capable of participating and helping out?
Capable, yeah. Do they? No.
Okay, listen. It's time for some hard conversations, right? Because all things shouldn't be on your plate.
No,
that's the reality too. Because then we begin to resent them.
Yes.
And they are not mind readers. So we need to be very clear,
but
like,
I feel
here's
like
what
they
I
should
need.
be mind readers. And that's on me again, because I'm always like, you should know.
No.
But they don't know. And that's not on them.
Because like, think about it. Just even like, if you think about the people who know you, there's still some things about you they don't know.
Oh, I'm sure.
And they shouldn't for everybody's safety, right? But it's like that we have to remember that, especially if we have conditioned them to believe that we're going to take care of it anyways.
Yes. It's funny that you say that, because honestly, like, I've been having that internal struggle. Like, okay, you live with adults and one small child, like, but everybody's capable of doing something. Like, why am I the one always doing this? Why? But again, I'm not telling anybody to do it.
Right.
And I'm like, but you shouldn't have to tell people. They see the bathroom trash is overflowing. Do they have eyeballs? They have eyeballs. But again,
hold on. But sometimes they don't. I know. And I know that sounds weird, right?
It's like the expectation in your own head.
Yes.
But then I just get mad. But I'm not telling anybody that I'm mad.
Right.
And then I'm stomping around.
Right.
You know?
And you're not asking for what you need.
Exactly.
And maybe it sounds like there's a family meeting that needs to go down.
There's a family meeting.
And the other part is, right? And I'm going to say this to the microphone because I don't want to give any eye contact at this time.
You're like, we're not.
No eye contact.
I'm speaking from personal experience. But when we walk into our home and there's dishes in the sink or the bathroom trash is full and we're like, what? Right? And we feel panicked or upset, that always stems from our childhood and the desire to control something.
Yep.
And if I walk in and that feels like it's out of my control, then I feel chaotic. But that has nothing to do with my energy or my chaos, right? It's just that's a repeated pattern.
Yep.
So then, again, just as a coach, I would say, like, go get your incense and stand in front of that sink full of dishes and recalibrate in the moment with the thing.
Yep.
Because then the thing is no longer has power over you or dominates you. You go,
okay.
I can look at the dishes and know that I can't be in control of all things at all times. And there are people who can help. I just have to tell them because I deserve ease when I get home too. Right?
Like that's a good way to look at it. And sometimes I feel like, I don't know if it's like the oldest sibling in me, like the oldest daughter as well.
Yes.
I have that. I have to control everything.
Yes.
And nobody can do anything the way I'm going to do it.
So
you know,
true.
That's the whole
like
other
if I
part
walk
of
into
it.
my bedroom and the bed is made, but I didn't make it, I'm like, what is this?
And it's fine.
It's
but
fine.
in your mind, you're like, that corner's off.
I'm like, did a toddler come in here and make this? Like, what is this? But again, like, I'm like, this is and I know, like, that's the oldest daughter. Like, I have to control everything, even though, does it really need to be controlled?
Right.
Like, it really doesn't. Like, not to that extent.
Right.
Like, that's,
right.
let that stuff go.
Yeah,
you
so
know?
good. So, and you know, like, again, I'm going to stare at the table. When we need control of a lot of external things, it's because we feel like we don't have control internally.
No, that is a good point.
Oh no, that's totally
Yeah,
true.
yeah,
That is 100% true.
Yeah. And like one of the things that practicing love and self-love does is that it brings you back to the massive amounts of control that we have here, so that when things happen outside of us, because they always will, right? Whether at home or in the world or in the government, don't get me started, right? Whatever.
That could be a whole other podcast.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. We're not going there. Let's talk about how they all need love and hugs. Whatever is happening, we can look at it through a filter that's able to see it and honor it for what it is, but without making it a thing that creates chaos within us, right? But I find that the only thing that combats that is love. Yeah.
I like it.
So can you tell us a little bit about your background as far as like how you got into writing and in speaking and coaching?
Yeah. So this has a couple of different veins, and then they all come together.
Yeah.
I started speaking, doing spoken word when I was in college. So you know spoken word when everybody snaps at the end and everybody
I didn't know that.
it's like poetry, but it has almost like it has a rhythm and a flow to it. It's not just reading poetry. And there's like pauses and I don't know. It's my whole thing, right? It's
like in a very dimly lit area.
Yes.
Everybody's sitting at a nice little table with like a little flower on there.
Yeah.
It's like improv kind of?
No. These are like prepared and curated poems.
Oh, okay.
But they're delivered in a way that it's almost like the only thing I can think of is hip hop.
I say this with love because I have realized some truths. I am not intimidating. You're intimidated. There's a difference. I don't take up too much space. You're just used to people playing small. My inner light is not too bright. You're just used to dimming your own. I am not mean nor aggressive. I am honest and assertive, and that makes you uncomfortable. And I do not make you uncomfortable. My presence challenges your comfort. All of that is yours. I will not be less for you to feel better about yourself. Own your stuff.
It's got like this rhythm to it. And afterward, when you're done, people don't clap. Oh, that's so good. That's so good.
Maybe we should do that.
It's like speak it?
So
yeah, or go in a 10.
No, like speaking.
Both. I'm like, roses are red.
You could.
Yeah, I could.
You could.
As long as I get that
you just don't roses are red, violets are blue.
Yeah.
It's like roses are red, violets are blue.
Okay, got you. Got you.
You know, you play. Anyway.
Yes.
So I started doing, a friend of mine invited me to this event that they were doing. It's like a spoken word thing. A bunch of people got up there. They did their bit. I was like, oh, I got a bunch of pieces. I could totally do this. So the first time I got up, I spoke about the sexual abuse. And I cried through it. And my therapist was like, do it. It's so cathartic. So I signed up for the open mic night. I got up there. I did it. I made sure none of my friends, nobody who knew me, was in the room, right? I got up there, I cried my way through it, and then when I got off stage, there was a line of women who were like, thank you for saying that out loud. Wow. And I thought, oh, we don't talk about it, we don't, right? It's like so much taboo around it, and so I was like, oh, okay. So the next time I remember I went home and I wrote about this line of women, and then I decided that it needed to be more empowering because the first piece was really broken and just like all the pieces of what remains after you deal with that. And I said, I have to do this different. So I came back again, no French, nobody knew. And I got up there and I did this second piece and I cried through this piece too, but it felt more powerful. And then they were clapping, which is like, you don't clap unless it's serious business.
Are you supposed to snap or you're not supposed to do anything?
Snap.
Oh, okay.
And they were standing up and clapping. And I thought, okay, I have to do this more.
This is it.
And I have to create spaces for this to, like, for us to do this, have these dialogues or whatever. So I really started speaking back in college, doing spoken word. And then I found that almost every job I had, they were like, you seem good in front of people. Go do public speaking. And every time there was like a speech that needed to be done or like a delivery, send Maria. So I just kind of started learning how to hone those skills. And I've always been a storyteller, and my family's full of story. My grandfather was a storyteller. You know, you can't ask him a question without him like telling a whole story. And it was like, just yes or no. And he's like, let me tell you a story. And I'm like, oh my God. Right. So it was like storytelling was embedded in me. And then it was something that I curated over time. So when I do talks and when I do keynotes, there's always a couple of people who understand spoken word who will approach me and say, you used to do spoken word. And I'm like, how do you know? And they go, you can hear it. You have a rhythm when you're delivering like a keynote. Oh, okay. Well, I'm like, well, that's just who I am and what I do.
Yeah, honestly, when you were talking about it after, like I didn't know what it was. And then I remember the first time I heard you speaking and I could picture it.
Yeah.
Like I agree with
okay,
that.
that tracks.
Yeah.
There's like a rhythm.
But that's what I think makes you so compelling is like you're just following like your voice. Like it's pretty cool.
Thank you. Yeah. So that's how I started the speaking part. And then it would be, hey, do you want to, do you do keynotes? And I'm like, what's a keynote? This was like 10 years ago before I even knew what that was. And they said, we just want somebody inspirational to get up there and talk about this. And I was like, sure, I have a spoken word piece. This is what I said. It's called 6 Words, and it's because they want to do women's empowerment. And I'm like, yeah, I have this piece. I explained it. They're like, yeah, do that. That sounds great. So they said, you have 20 minutes. The piece is only 6. I said, okay. So, all right, I'll write a bunch of stuff. And it was all stuff that I felt like if I was a woman needing empowerment, what would I need to hear? Yeah. I wrote that accordingly, and that was my first keynote, and that was it. Once I got a taste of that, I was like, this is what we're doing now. And then I did leadership trainings, and for a job that I had, I did a lot of leadership training and a lot of communication trainings, and I got certified in all those things. So when I ended up starting my business, I looked at all my certifications and all my training, and I thought, oh my gosh, I could do workshops, I could do keynotes, and I could do coaching, right? So then this is what we're going to do. And it's interesting because I I had all these jobs. I worked in a prison. I did counseling and case management. I worked at Job Corps. I was once like Tucker Plastics in Leominster. Yeah. I was the woman who stripped the extra plastic off of the hampers. Like, I've had so many jobs and I was a janitor at the YMCA, right? Like, I've done all the things. Yeah. And then one day I made a list of all of the skills that I acquired through all of these jobs. And I had this list, and it's actually still on my wall in my office. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm kind of amazing. I could do a bunch of stuff. I ended up, I was at this one job that I really, really loved, and it was shaping to all of my strengths. And I didn't know that was possible, but I have very powerful faith. So I thought, this will tweak itself to be exactly what I want. And it was. And then they even were like paying me during work hours to teach fitness classes. Okay.
Like, oh no.
Right? Like, part of my job on my job description is to also work out. Like, okay. So it became this really beautiful thing. And then this other company, this business came and tried to recruit me. I said, no. They tried to recruit me. I said, no. We did this for a little while. And then finally I said, okay, I will go. I believe in you and your mission. And I went. And a couple months later, I got fired. And I got fired. And when I was sitting across the table from a panel of people telling me all the things that I was horrible at.
Oh, my.
Oh, it was delicious.
Oh.
Not in the moment, but afterwards.
Right.
My soul was like, oh. I said to one of the guys who was saying, you're this and you're that and you're this and you're that. I said, whoa, time. Literally, all of the things you're listing are the reasons you sought me out. Mm-hmm. Those are I have a voicemail where you said A, B, C, and D is the reason why you...
Yeah, that's what you wanted.
That's what you wanted. And he said, and I quote, you didn't do it the way we wanted you to.
Oh, now I get it.
Oh, so you like my honesty except when I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So in that moment, I remember I was like, just so... Yep. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I left. And then when I got in the car, I was like, oh, what's wrong with me? Right. And then we come back to what's wrong with me?
Yeah. What did I do wrong?
I've never gotten fired before. I must have been the worst person. Maybe the things that they were saying was right. There was a panel of them.
Yeah.
So
they had to be right.
They had to be. They were leadership. They knew better than me. Like, they had to be right. And then I started applying for other jobs, and everywhere I went, they're like, you're overqualified, you're overqualified, you're overqualified. And in the back of my mind was, start your own company. And I was like, terrified. I was like, no, that's not happening. And then all this overqualified, I was like, okay, I have to take a risk and jump. And then I did. Now, I would love to say that it's been magic ever since. Lies. But I jumped, smashed into the ground, got a couple of part-time jobs to make ends meet, but kept the path, right? I was working on my business full-time, but not really in the business. That was very part-time. So I took whatever jobs I could get to, keep a roof over our heads. I have my daughter, and to make sure we got fed and make sure all the bills got paid and everything. And just last year was when I said, okay, now I'm going to go into my business full time. I've built up enough of a reputation and a rapport, and I know the quality of the work that I deliver, whether it's a keynote or a workshop or coaching. I have the testimonies to back it up. I'm like, okay. So last year was the first year that I did it. So this is my second officially full year that I'm doing this, and it's been such an extraordinary journey because when you trust yourself, it's a whole different.
Oh yeah.
This whole idea of loving myself and I'm magic is great when you got a consistent paycheck coming in.
Of course, right? Of course.
It's a little bit different when you are dependent on you, and then it's like, oh, but do I believe in myself? But do I? And then it felt like at that point I had no choice. Let's just go all in and see what happens. And if it blows up in my face, great, because at least I can say I went all in. Yep. And earlier today, I had an appointment, and on my way back from the appointment, there was a processional lining up for a funeral. Yep. And I assumed the person was a police officer or something, because there were a bunch of police cars. Okay. And then there was a whole motorcycle crew, just a bunch of people, which I don't know why. I just think it's so beautiful whenever people do that. So this procession that was lining up was so long. So I turned down my music. I drive by, I'm looking at the family members or friends in their cars, you know, they're all crying, they're waiting, they have their sticker to kind of do this drive, and I take a moment and I just send them all some love because they're mourning the loss. Mm-hmm. And then when I cleared this procession, I had this overwhelming urge to like live, right? And I'm like, that's coming.
Yep.
Whether I know when or not, or whether I want to say it out loud or not, that's coming.
Mm-hmm.
So because I know that it is, like, let's live. Okay, what would that look like right now? I was like, oh, let me put on my jam. I put on my song. I put the windows down. I put my hand out the window. I said, I'm the weird lady who does this thing. Like feeling the cool air in my hands, just being fully present in my body, just being thankful for the moment. And I started crying. I don't care how corny that sounds, but I just had this real moment of gratitude for my journey, for love, for the people,
yep.
including you ladies and including Keith, like the people who see me and who also share parts of themselves, and like the expansion, the challenges, like all of it. And I would not be able to have that kind of like pivotal moment where I felt so alive if I didn't return to love, if I didn't understand coming back to love and how important that is to be fully alive. Because I hear people say all the time, oh, I'm not ready to die. I'm not ready to die. And I'm like, yeah, honey, but you're not living.
Right.
And yeah, that's the traveling, and yeah, that's the bucket list, but it's also like being in the moment.
Yep. Finding meaning in every day,
yes.
No matter what you're doing, whether it's just at home, whether you do something small, like have a fire pit at night or something like that. Like
yes.
make a favorite dinner, like simple things that you do every day, not every just I'm going to go to Iceland in September. Like, yeah, right. That's great.
And that's great too.
That's nice. Like, yes. Yeah, I want to do those things, but like you shouldn't just live to work and go to sleep.
Right. And I use this example because you just brought up the dishes, right? One of the things, like my own PTSD, I grew up one of 6 kids, and my mom, she cooked all of our meals, and I'm so thankful for her and the fact that she did that, and that's how she knew how to love us, right? And so when it was your turn on dishes, you had dishes for the week, and it was all the dishes.
Yep.
Because and we were like too poor to have a dishwasher, so you washed all the dishes several times a day so they were ready for the next meal.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, so many dishes and pots and pans and like so as an adult, I'm like, I will always have a dishwasher.
Yep.
Right? And then the dishwasher died.
Oh.
And there was 2 plates. And I felt my chest do a thing. And I was like, Maria, calm down. It's not that serious. It's like,
I need to go lay down.
Right? Like, I'm triggered.
I'm never going to recover from this.
And then I was like, okay, what would it mean to fully be present in this moment? This is a question I ask myself often. I'm like, I need music, because music is a anchor for me.
Yep.
So I sat on the kitchen floor and made a playlist. Mm-hmm. It's mostly Shakira and Beyonce.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's a fun, upbeat playlist.
Yep.
And I named it Doing the Dishes.
Oh.
And I put that playlist on with the speaker.
Yep.
And I start washing. Again, it's like 4 dishes, knock it off, right? So I start doing the dishes. But as I'm doing the dishes, to be more present, I'm going to practice gratitude. I have dishes. Mm-hmm. And they're dirty because we have food. Yep. And we have food because, right? Yep. And I have running water, and I have access to soap, and this water actually feels really good on my hands. And like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing the dishes. I'm getting them ready for the next time we need them. And then my daughter comes into the kitchen. She's like, are you smiling doing dishes? And I'm like, game has changed, honey. The game has changed. So now she has a playlist.
That's awesome.
For cleaning.
Yeah.
Right? And she was like, using the speaker, I'm going to use the speaker. I'm like, what are we about to do? She's like, clean the bathroom, make it happen. And just how can I be fully present so that this isn't a thing I have to do? It's a thing that I get to do. Yeah. And like just coming back to gratitude and joy and being intentional about that fully alive in the moment while doing the dishes.
Yeah, I like that. And I like the idea of, I'm like a big playlist person. Like I have like the driving one. I have like the camping one. I have the beach one. I have the gym one.
Yes.
Like I have all these. And I love music, just all different kinds of music. You know what I mean? So like, I'm like, oh, we're going to start like this. We're going to start slow. We're going to start slow. Then we're going to bring it into the 90s real quick. And then we're going to end here. We're going to wrap it up.
I love that.
So it's like, I like the idea of having like random playlists for like things that you have to do. Like whether it's something you want to do or not, just setting it to music is going to change the idea so much.
And it lets you, because you're sensory, you come back to all of your senses.
Yes,
definitely.
And that's what, being present, being fully alive is about, being fully in your senses in the moment, not waiting until the trip to Ireland or the whatever to say, oh, now I'm alive.
Yes.
Because if you don't practice it, it's not in you. And then you get the thing, and we've all experienced this, where you get to the moment or you get the thing and it feels like meh. And then you're like, okay, I guess I got to get the next thing. You're going to always be chasing the thing if we're not practiced at being in the moment.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
So yummy.
Very good.
Now, what kind of companies reach out to you for the most part to hire you, to have you come in to do all of this?
Yum. All of them.
All of them. So there's no like particular like niche group of, it's just.
No, right now, a lot of my workshops are focused on burnout, work-life balance, self-care, and boundaries. Those 4 are the 4 that people are asking for left and right, which is great because I happen to be an expert.
Yes, I have that same.
There's that. And I'm speaking at schools to groups of teachers. I spoke at a hospital to groups of nurses and doctors. I've spoken at like a guy just reached out from Enterprise and like the people who rent you your cars, right?
Yep.
So I find that these particular topics go across the gamut and they go across the board. So where people need them, I'll go.
That's amazing.
Yeah. You do college talks?
Yep.
I would think that would be a huge, like young minds could totally use what you're saying.
Yeah. I know, imagine learning this stuff.
I know.
When you're 18.
What I was thinking. Yeah.
Like, could you imagine?
I know. Yes. Honestly.
Well, like I only say yes for 2 reasons. One, my daughter grew up in this. So sometimes I watch her and her way of just being reminds and reinforces me because I taught it to her through all my programming and through all my mess and through my stuff. And this is all she knew. So she just shows up very differently in life. And I watch her and I'm like, what kind of magic?
That must just be such a beautiful thing to see.
It really is.
You must just be like, how did that happen?
Yeah. And
like,
she
she
reteaches me because she doesn't have to, we have to overcome all of the stuff.
Yeah.
And do it consistently and intentionally to get there. Whereas if this is embedded in them when they're young, it's just who they are, right? And then I had this amazing opportunity for 3 years. One of those part-time jobs, I worked with first generation high-risk college students at the Mount, and I coached them. And I mean, these kids are extraordinary, right? And statistically, they were told where they were going to end up. And I had the opportunity to work with these kids in each group. The first group I worked with for a year, the second group was for 2 years, and then the third group was for that year before the grant ended. And these kids still reach out. And they're like, this changed my life, and I still use this, and I'm in a healthy relationship because I learned these communication skills. And I separated, disconnected from my mother because she refused to see her own toxicity, and I have to love her from a distance. And just these things that at such a young, they're 40, 50 years old who can't do this.
Yep.
And from such a young age, they're already doing the work and putting it into practice. And it's just so fantastic to hear the feedback. I haven't worked with them in a year and a half 2 years, because I ended, this is 2024, 2023, in 2022, December 2022. So it's been a year and a half, and they still send me emails and they reach out and they're still putting these practices. And it's just a reinforcement. Like, I know that this stuff works because there's actual data and studies that prove it, but I also know because of the testimonies.
Yep.
And I just,
That's huge.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, like, what do you feel? Like, what keeps you going?
At the end of the day, I'm tired.
I am very tired.
No, not in a bad way. I just feel like I gave my all.
Yep.
It's time to recoup.
Yep.
And when my head hits the pillow, child.
I was gonna say, it
5
must
seconds,
take
I'm
a
sleeping.
lot out of you, especially like to be up on a stage and to talk to a lot of people. Like, I know it's fun and you love it and you're passionate about it, but it must take a lot out of you.
It doesn't. It's interesting.
I'd be like,
Me too.
When I do a talk or like a workshop, afterward, I'm so charged, I could go for a run.
Okay.
It's so bizarre.
Yeah. No, I get it,
But
though.
I think that's like...
It's like the endorphins.
Yes.
Yep.
And I think, too, that's part of being an extrovert, right? It's like you get fed by the group.
Yep.
It's very rare that... It does happen, but it's very rare that the group is so needy that I leave depleted. Right? Because I can feel them just kind of like sucking my energy, which is fine. That's what I'm there for. And then I'm going to recharge. But for the most part, people come willing. And so the openness allows us to kind of co-create space, and then I get charged up from that, and then I could take it for a run. When I go to bed, what I mean is like I'm tired, meaning like I feel like I checked my boxes, and I'm like, okay, now it's time to recoup.
Yep.
And I put my head on the pillow, it's lights out. Right. And then I'll wake up, I get my solid 8 because I know myself.
Yep.
I get my solid 8. And as soon as I wake up, I do this really interesting thing. And people think I'm joking. You can ask my child. This is what I do. I wake up in the morning, I smile. It's the first thing that I do because I'm alive. And then I think of, before I get out of bed, 10 things that I'm grateful for. So there's a Alice in Wonderland, the human version.
Yep.
She says, I think of 5 impossible things before breakfast.
Yes.
And I was like, wait a second, I can think of 10 grateful things before I get out of bed. So I do. I think of 10 things I'm grateful for before I get out of bed. And that practice makes it so when I hit the floor, it's different. Like I hit the floor different because I was already grateful before I even rose up.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
And so what keeps me going is both my daughter, because she's just my favorite person, right? And I feel like when she was born and I'm holding this little baby, I was like, I'm not even kidding. After I realized that she's really pale and I wasn't sure if they switched out my baby, I had that whole moment because I was like, you sure she's mine? And I said to the nurse, are you sure this is my, and the nurse is like, she's still attached. And I kind of tugged her and I was like, she's mine. Okay. No, honestly, I had a whole moment, right? And then I thought, am I my healthiest version of myself for her? And I went back to therapy, right? And like, I don't know what I need to work through, but let's figure it out because I want to be the best version of myself for her. So she really inspires me to be the best version of myself. And then the other thing that inspires me is just kind of, I read this book a long time ago. I want to say the book is called Die Empty. And the guy talks about how, like, did you give your all? Did you do your best? Did you make your mark? Did you leave an impact?
Yep.
And that's another thing. So I'll just go, okay, where do I need to go? What do I need to say? Who do I need to connect with? How do I need to make an impact? Who needs my extra energy to help build them up? Right? Like that gets me excited too. I flew back from Colorado. I did a training there on Monday. And then on the flight home, there's a guy here and a guy here. I'm like, hi, Maria. Hi. And we end up chatting for 4 hours. And then this guy goes, I feel so rejuvenated. I'm like, you're welcome.
Yeah.
And
then, I did that.
Right. Like I go home and I'm like,
like my job's done.
And done. Yep. And done. Yeah. So as much as I can, I want to give, but I also, in this vein of love, I have to also recognize when I don't have anything to give, when I am depleted, and I want to show up in love in that way. Because I can love you by not being around you when I'm not my best self, rather than pretending that I'm going to give you what I don't have.
That makes sense.
Right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people are like, well, if you love them, you show up and then that's not love. That's obligation. And you're giving from a place that you're very depleted, which I promise you is not benefiting them in the same way that if you showed up full. Right? So like that's also, am I operating? I have, girl. Okay. See, I'm saying I could just keep going.
You have a lot to say.
I have core values. I have personal core values and I have my like business core values. And I type them up. I put them on sparkly paper. I put glitter on them because might as well be cute. We have the one light, right? I frame them and they're hanging on a wall. And every morning I read them. And it's like honesty, love, authenticity, congruency, integrity. Right. So I read through my list and I'm like, okay, these are my anchors for the day. And then I use those to kind of go through my day. And at the end of the day, before I go to bed, I come back and I'm like, was I honest with myself, with other people? Was I operating from a place of gratitude? Did I make my health a priority? Did I operate with integrity? Check, check, check. And if there's anything that I didn't check, I'm like, ooh, okay, gentle. I'm going to do better tomorrow. And here's how I'm going to do that. Or I need to apologize to so-and-so if I crossed the line, right? And like make myself a note. I'm going to do better tomorrow. But right now I'm going to sleep to recoup. And then I'll show up with more to give. And then I'll clean up whatever I need to clean up or proceed. So
That makes sense.
Yeah. This is a random, not random, but you seem to like absorb people's energies.
Yes.
How do you combat somebody who tends to be more negative than positive on a regular basis?
Yum.
You know what I mean?
I do.
And like they could drain you even more. But if that's like, I think of my mother, for example. Love her. But very negative.
Yeah.
Very, like, for example, yesterday
it
was my daughter's first day of 5th grade.
Yeah.
I sent pictures to my mom and dad. They were in Florida. They live in Florida. And I'm like, oh, Mabel's first day of 5th grade. My dad was making a joke because she had arm warmers on. And he's like, well, let's go. Anyway, my mom goes, hey, if you can, change your hair. I don't like it blonde. It washes you out. You should go back to dark. And I was like, hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you? So an example is not of that in particular, but like she's somebody like I get around and I feel myself draining immediately. And I love her. Like she's a wonderful woman. She'd give me the shirt off of her back, you know, love her to pieces. But you must come across that.
Yeah.
And you must be in those situations where you're like, can you give to that person?
Yes.
Are you able to?
So good. So yummy. So many things.
You're like, ooh.
Okay.
She's like, where do I start? Where do I
Because
start?
I myself shut down.
Yes.
Because I'm like, I can't. Like, I'm going to yell or I'm going to go off the deep end if I feel any more of this negativity. Even though it's not, even if it's not about me.
Right.
If it's just in general, like complaint after complaint after complaint about everything that's woe is them.
Yes. Oh, so yummy. Okay. So right off the bat, I want to give you 2 resources. So, and this is for anybody who needs this. There are 2 resources. One is the 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And one of the agreements is don't take anything personal. Now, it feels really challenging in theory because it's like, but she's literally talking about my hair. How am I not supposed to take that personal? But the reality is because all things begin and end with us, all things in her life begin and end with her. She has her own perceptions about what she thinks beauty is or isn't, and it has nothing to do with you. She just happens to be sharing that under the guise of love, but it's not. It's not.
It's like, you don't need to say that.
Right.
Like, there's no need.
Yeah, so that's one.
Yeah.
The second is this video. It's about 3 minutes long. Her name is Marissa Peer. She's a therapist from the UK. And it's the 5 things that you can say to deal with rejection. And this is a form of rejection. And I've used it personally. And let me tell you, this one, this nugget right here that I'm going to deliver to you, it's so delicious. And when you put it into practice at first, because especially if it's a parent or someone that's really close to us, we feel like we're not supposed to combat them. We're not supposed to, there's so much guilt around talking back, right?
Yes.
Or like creating havoc, because then if we defend ourselves and they get upset, that's our fault. No, it's not, because all things begin and end with them. How they respond and receive your information has nothing to do with you and has everything to do with them, unless you're intentionally trying to be hurtful.
Of course.
Right.
Yeah.
So Marissa Peer says, the first thing when somebody says something like that, now, if I'm thinking about this book, The 4 Agreements, I'm not taking that personal. So automatically I can feel like this, no, thank you, right? Like this little wall go up and I'm like, no. And then I say to myself, no, thank you. And then I say to them, are you trying to be hurtful?
Yeah.
Because when you ask people if they're trying to be hurtful, what do you think their response is?
Say it? No.
No.
Of course not.
Oh, because it sounds like
I would never.
You're being critical and judgmental about my hair. It sounds like you're trying to be hurtful.
Yep.
And they instantly now, because you've checked them, they're not mind readers.
Yep.
If we say nothing, they think that this behavior is okay.
Yeah.
People don't repeat behaviors that don't have a payoff.
Yep.
Right? So they think that this behavior or this way of talking to you is okay. Now you've checked them. And then this is the most delicious one. And I've used this. I recently learned that people who are really critical of others reserve the most amount of criticism for themselves. I am so sorry that you don't think you're good enough and you feel like you have to push that onto me. I'm going to let you go. I hope you have a great day. I have used that.
That is deep.
That is beautiful.
Right?
Like I can feel saying that and being like, bye.
Yes. And there's so much power. Like, I'm not taking that.
Yeah.
That's you and your criticism that you have for yourself. No, thank you. And when I said it, I was like, I'm going to hold you in my prayers because that's got to be a lot to work through.
Yeah.
All right, I'll talk to you later. I'm going to go.
Yeah.
It was, that woman didn't talk to me for like 3 months, which was, again, a gift.
You're like, oh no.
Yeah. And then when she came back around, not a word. Not a word. And it was criticism after criticism after criticism before that. And once I dropped that nugget, Not a word. And then my practice is I am not going to take her stuff personal. It has nothing to do with me. I'm fabulous. All my blonde hair. And I would take pictures of me in blonde hair and send it to her. just so we're clear.
Yep. Yeah.
Just so we're clear.
I love that.
So good. So good. Because people are going to be who they are.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And especially like parents and stuff.
Yeah.
And they're set in their age at this point. It's, there's no changing.
Right.
And that they are who they are. And that's it.
There was a woman in my family, and I didn't tell her where I was going on vacation. And then she found out, and she says, well, why didn't you tell me where you were going on vacation? And I said, do you really want me to know? I mean, do you really want the answer? And I asked the question 3 times because it gives them multiple opportunities to back out. Because my first core value is honesty. So do you really want to know? And she's like, yeah, I want to know. I said, but are you sure that you want me to tell you the truth? And she's like, yeah, tell me. And I'm like, but that's something you want me to tell you. Yeah. And she said, yeah. And I said, because every time I tell you I'm taking a vacation, you tell me that it's a stupid thing because as a single mom, I should not be spending my money traveling. I should be saving up for rainy days. Mm-hmm. So why would I share with you the things that bring me joy, knowing that you're not going to meet me? Yep. Mm-hmm. She's like, oh, well, I hope you have a great vacation. Oh. I said, thank you. I will.
I will.
Oh, I will.
Oh, I will.
I'll send you photos.
Yeah. And then after that, every time we went somewhere and she found out, she's like, the pictures look so fun. I hope you had a great time. I did.
Oh, I definitely did.
Also in my family. Right? Yeah. And then the other thing is this, and this I learned from therapy. So there's one person in my family. Every time I got around this woman, it was combative and critical. She would start at the top of my head and work her way down to, and then she would do it to my daughter. And that's when I was like, we're not doing this.
Yep. Yeah.
And then I realized that if she was doing it to me and my daughter was in earshot, she was still doing it to my daughter because I was teaching my daughter that by silence that it was okay. So I started going, okay, I'm going to limit my time around this person because I'm appreciative of them and I understand that they're in my family and all that, but I'm going to limit my time. And my therapist said, I want you to go in and pay attention, like set a stopwatch. And when she starts with her first critique, hit that stopwatch. That's your marker. It was 23 minutes. So I would go in, and even if it was a bunch of people, and we're all like having a big family thing, and it's great. 23 minutes, she would start, boom, grab my daughter, I'm out. And then she finally, after a couple of times of this, she said, I noticed you stay for like half an hour and then you leave. Why is that? Do you really want to know? Do you want me to tell you? Are you sure you want the answer?
Are you sure you want to know?
And then I told her. Yep. And she's like, well, that can't be true. I called my sister.
You're like, let me tell you.
Let's co-sign this. And my sister's like, yeah. And I said, so I'm going to protect myself, I want to see my family, I want to see everybody, but while I'm doing this work to build myself up so that I don't take on your negativity because I wasn't there yet, I have to protect myself and I have to protect my space. So I'm going to limit it. And then I left. Now I could be around her for hours. It doesn't matter because 1, she's not going to say anything to me anymore because
now she knows.
We're on the same page.
Yeah.
Right. But 2, even if there are other people who are there who are negative, I feel like I've created almost like a force field because the practice allows you to just protect yourself. And you don't get to impede on my joy. You don't get to impede on my love. You don't, and I won't let you because I've practiced not taking you personally. Right? That's your stuff. Yep. And now I just start referring people to therapists.
Now you're like, let me.
You're like, I know a really good one. Here you go.
Some really great therapists. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So the whole theme of our podcast is, so what's next?
Yes.
So what is next for you? With your book and with everything, what do you see for yourself moving forward with your business?
Yeah. So the goal here, this is what's next. I can feel it in my soul.
I can feel it.
I can feel it. I got the feeling. Now I'm going to have to listen to James Brown on the way home. I know that this is coming. I'm going to continue to build my speaking and workshop business. I'm keeping my coaching very limited because I'm doing more speaking and coaching, and that just takes up more time. So that's going to happen. I'm working on, so this is a book, but I also consider this like a journal. So I'm working on my second book, Sparkly and Street. And that's about taking all the parts of ourselves and living our most authentic lives, Sparkly and Street. And the goal is to pitch that to a publishing house and then take that on a book tour. Hey, yes. I know. That'll be fun. And in terms of like more immediate things that are happening, we're doing a book launch here.
Yeah.
Very exciting. Yes. Very exciting. On September 19th. It is going to be small, so people do have to register. I put it out yesterday, and there's already 12 people signed up.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
And we kept it at what, 20?
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yes. So I was like,
yeah.
Run.
Yeah.
I mean, we can always do another one if we need to.
I think we'll have to. Yeah.
No, that's so exciting. You must be very excited about that.
I'm very excited. Yeah. And one of my sisters is like, you need to make it a thing. So I just ordered these recycled brown paper bags with the handles and like the tissue paper with sparkles on it. Ooh. And it's just going to be so cute. It's going to be so cute. So I'm going to put all the, the bags together and stuff. It'll be really cute. And just a great space to talk about the power and the importance of self-love and to answer any questions and just to connect with like-minded people.
I'm really excited for it.
Yeah,
really
me too. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so where can they, if they are unable to attend that, because this might actually air after that.
Okay.
Where can they find you online?
My website.
Okay.
From the website, they can access speaking. They can access coaching if that's something that they wanted. They can access all the upcoming things that are open to the public. Yep. The whole beginning part of this year, it was private companies. Mm-hmm. Nothing was open to the public. Mm-hmm. I feel like there's so many gigs coming up that are open to the public.
Ooh, we'll have to look.
Yeah. In October as well. Oh, so my website is www.mariamilagros.net. Net as in I'm catching them. Hey. MariaMilagros. Maria Milagros. So the other thing that I'm doing is I got a grant from the Mass Cultural Council and the Fitchburg Cultural Council, and I'm teaching a storytelling workshop for teens, and that's happening in September. But then I'm also teaching a storytelling workshop for adults at the Fitchburg Art Museum in October. It's 2 nights, and both of them are free. Because the grant is paying for it. And I love teaching storytelling. Obviously, it's something that I'm really passionate about. And really using our stories to, again, change our lives. They don't know. They'll never know. That it's actually going to be about self-love and changing our stories. But really, how can we take our stories and use them as tools to empower our lives?
Yep.
Right. Yeah. Right. And that's why we felt so lucky that we found you. Because that's the nature of our business is storytelling marketing and really telling your story. And we're so glad that you came to tell your story.
Thank you.
Really, really amazing. We also do a fun thing on our little podcast here where we just take a card and we just ask you a question.
Okay.
If you don't like the first one, you can change it.
Okay.
But these are random.
That was the chair.
They're
very random. So you can read it and answer it, or you can take another one.
Okay. Looking ahead to the upcoming year, what is your biggest wish for the upcoming year? Ooh. Oh. I mean, this is a big wish. Yeah, this is a big wish. My biggest wish is that people in leadership, be it leaders in their homes, leaders in companies, leaders in government, leaders, do the work and find spaces of healing, because we belong to each other. Mm-hmm. And if we are not doing the work and connecting back to love and joy and doing that in a way that provides healing, we're going to hurt each other. Yeah. We're already hurting each other. Mm-hmm. And some of the companies that I work for, that I'm working with, I will say to their leadership team, I think it's great that you had me come in and speak to all of your employees, but your leadership needs this as well, because all things rise and fall with leadership. So whether you're a leader in your home or you're a leader at a company, do the work. Do the work. That's my biggest wish, is that people would stop being so scared of themselves, and do the work, because, man, we need each other. Yep. Mm-hmm. We need each other. And whether we realize that we're giving from our overflow or not, that's what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And then the question is, what are you overflowing with? Yeah, there's that.
Mm-hmm. That was a good answer. Yeah. That was really good.
Yeah. That's my biggest wish.
I like that.
I like that too. Mm-hmm. Well, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I know Danielle feels the same way. The minute I met you, I was like, I need to be friends with that girl.
like I said, when I met you, I'm like, she came from your workshop and was like, oh my God, I love her.
I was like, this girl. Like, and I just feel blessed that like our paths crossed and, you know, we get to sit here together.
Yeah. When I got the email and it was like stories, I'm like, I'm in. I don't even know what's happening. I don't know. I just know they're focused on stories too and they understand the importance of stories. And then I had the chance to actually sit down and talk to you ladies and I'm just so thankful. And I posted that and I'm like, oh my God, this is such a game changer. And I was telling one of my mentors and I'm like, I met these women. And he's like, are you crying? I'm like, yes, they're so beautiful.
Oh, we feel the same way, honestly.
I am, you know, I don't judge myself anymore. So if I need to cry, I'm going to cry. And I was like, oh my God, these are tears of joy.
Tears of joy are wonderful. Yeah. Honestly, it's
absolutely.
When we met, you know, when we all got to sit down, I was like, this is amazing. And like when I told Jeremy about it, I'm like, I had so much fun. Like just stepping out away from the computer, having these conversations with you. I don't even remember what we talked about. Like it was so much. And we just kept like going and going. I'm like, I could do this for more hours, like hours. Literally. So again, today I was like, by the way, I'm hijacking the podcast and I'm going to be on because this is it needs to
We're
happen.
like,
I'm so
you
glad.
can't sit here.
I think I actually said that.
Today.
I think I was like, you can't sit here. You can't sit with
We're like,
us.
this is girls only.
This is the girls' table. We'll make the exception.
Yeah, keeps allowed.
We were like, when should we tell him? And then we waited literally until like 2 hours ago. And we're like, by the way, this is what's happening today. we don't really, you know, he is the boss, but today we had to step in.
I'm so thankful for this little table of women.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And for you, Keith.
And for you, Keith.
And for you. Yes, and like, yes. And I do have to say, Keith, too, shout out to you because I came in, you know, like, I don't know this guy.
Yeah, of course.
You're like,
and
hi.
he was just like totally casual, like everything's fine, just like this. And my daughter's like, he's so like calm.
Yes.
Such ease.
Yep.
She's like, it just made everything feel so much more.
Yep.
Like, no, really, it's such a testament to the work that you do. And then obviously I got these pictures and I was like, come on now.
They are adorable. They're so good.
Like, so
oh my God,
good.
they're so good.
Yeah,
they
thank
really
you.
show your personality.
Absolutely.
And like, I love them.
Yeah, so good. So thank you, ladies. Thank you, Keith. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're looking forward to more things around the corner.
It's coming.
It's coming.